And what went well was the offer was selling so easily after being created in 4 minutes. I was in full flow. I was totally aligned and energized within this launch. I created things in magical timeframes, sold, and the cash was in the bank with absolute ease. So sales don't have to be hard. They really can be super, super, super easy.
Hi, I'm Becky Eekens, business mindset and lifestyle coach for occupational therapists. I focus on creating a freedom-based online business, helping OTs to package up their skills in unique and exciting offers that feel so good that they sell with ease in the online space. Since leaving the profession of OT, I have now worked with hundreds of clients online, helping them to create a life they feel inspired by. In this podcast, I will talk about the lifestyle goals, mindset, and strategy you need to create your own life of freedom.
Hello. So I want to talk about launching today and really just share the highs and lows of doing a launch with you. So I'm going to be really honest, really open, and share all of the figures, facts, and results so that you can really see and feel the inside of a business, how it works, the thought processes, the wins, and of course, ideas for further improvements. So it's my hope that by me sharing very honestly, you can learn more about how to create your own successful launches. It can give you hope and show you what can be done and also what's realistic. So, first of all, to say that this was a Christmas time launch. So, I planned it in November as I was all excited, but I held on to it and enjoyed Christmas with my family. That's important to me. So, the launch I'm talking about on this podcast episode is a specific one, and it's the first time I've ever launched with somebody else. So, that somebody else is the amazing Meg, the human design occupational therapist. She's whole being OT on Instagram. And I just basically met her sometime late November, I think it was, and it was just very funny. I'd always wanted to add in human design to my business, but I had no rush for this and no vision for how this may look. I just knew that it was a grumbling thought at the back of my mind. And then I happened to stumble across Meg when I was doing some work on my social media. So mostly I don't go on social media. I let my team do that for me. But on a weekend, that's when I work. I don't work in the week. I work at a weekend. I dip into social media just so that I can keep up. I know what to tell my clients. I'm still feeling the energy of my business. And so this one day I was on Instagram and this was just partly just so that I could see how it was all working, find some nice accounts, people to connect with. And I saw Meg's account, and she'd done a post about ADHD and human design, the link between being a manifester or manifesting generator, I think it was, and ADHD. So it caught my attention. It's quite closely related to things within my own family. And in my true manifester style, I immediately commented and initiated the connection. And we had a chat, and she was so lovely, so warm. I immediately felt her passion for what she teaches, and she taught me something new straight away. She shared some information, and that was really interesting to me. Um, so I did toy with the idea that she was going to be the one who I might help with, and I kind of loosely mentioned this to her, and she showed that she had some interest in this, but I just backed off a little bit for a few days because I just wasn't sure. I've never actually worked with somebody else. It's always been my own business all the way through. Well, It still is, but I've never had somebody working so closely with my clients. So it was a big thing, and I took a few days just to kind of think it through. But I had this underlying feeling of excitement, and that normally shows me when I can't stop thinking about something, and it's just making me feel excited and exhilarated. I normally know that this thing is not going to go away. Um, and while this was happening, I just had another random event. This was a potential sales call with an occupational therapist who I knew was another manifester like me. And she happened to be 5 minutes late for the call. I don't wait on calls, but she'd messaged, and so I was waiting because I knew that she was going to be late. And the idea for the offer just flooded in within 4 minutes. I had written this offer, created it, and had it ready to sell. And weirdly, had managed to contact Meg within that time frame. Checked it was okay that I sell her services for her. And I had this whole thing ready to sell. So that was quite fun. And I didn't make that sale to that person, but within a few days I had sold it. And yeah, so that it was easy to sell. Basically, it just seemed to flow, the whole thing. It was super easy to make. Things happen in magical timeframes, I really do believe, when we're in full flow, and this was just an example of it. It didn't take any work. It was easy. But I held back because Christmas was looming, and this is where my experience as an entrepreneur comes in. I realize that I can't commit to taking on a lot of work when I know that I've got family things coming up. And not just me, I know that the rest of the world really are going to shut down. In my opinion, those 2 weeks before Christmas, not really ones that you want to be working. So I held on to it, and I was hosting Christmas. So I did write the launch posts well back in November, the end of November, because I was so excited. Like, I knew that this was going to be a thing. So when I say the launch posts, I wrote 10 days worth of social media content that was going to share the information. And because I was launching with somebody, I also wanted to run that past Meg, obviously, just to check that she was aligned with it. Because that's really important, that we're in sync and in harmony. So I was supposed to be holding off for a January launch, but when it came to it, I couldn't help myself but launch on the 27th of December. And I believe that was a very good decision to make, because I know this is a complete sweeping generalization, but most of my clients are females, and Christmas is just a busy time. And it just so happens that many of them get a bit of time off after Christmas. So that's, like I say, it's a generalization. It's definitely not true for everybody. But I just had this feeling that whereas I was sat quite chilled on the 27th of December, I decided that quite a lot of the world would be chilled as well. And even though I was hosting New Year's Eve, it was fine. It was just a few days of partying that I had to host, people staying over at my house. So it wasn't a big deal. So I just went with my emotions, really. This was all gut feeling. It was all intuition that guided the day that I launched. I did run it past Meg, but she was also happy with this. And I posted daily, and Meg helped. So it was great having somebody else, actually, because sharing audiences would have been a big thing to help this. And the posts immediately caught a lot of attention. I mean, that it's a very, very unique offer. As far as I know, there's no other occupational therapist who's offering the same offer. Very unique and very highly supportive to our clients. And so, yeah, they caught a lot of attention. Now, the problem with this was my assistant in the Philippines was off for Christmas. So This wasn't easy. I didn't have a sales page. I had no organization. I had to quickly set up a spreadsheet to keep on top of my replies. I had 127 incoming comments and messages within 24 hours, I think it was. And so just trying to keep on top of that was a bit tricky. I've had much higher numbers of messages in the past, but it's just tricky when you've got so many people messaging you. No matter what happens, that is just a lot of work. So it did mean that my New Year's and first week in January was busy. And anyone who knows me well will know that I do not like the word busy. People who know me well also know that I'm not a mad fan of launching. Like, I find them tiring, if I'm honest. And although I went into this with full energy and excitement, by the 7th of January, I was tired and wanting to curl up into a ball. And in true launch style, I'd only just started bringing in money by then. So the sales value I'd made by the 7th of January was 10,400 in pounds. I just want to clarify as well at this moment what I'm talking about. When I talk about sales value or when I talk about cash in the bank, because it's important to know that the 10K made in that time was sales value. And one of those people was actually not paying in full, but paying a monthly amount over 6 months. So the sales value was 10,400. The actual cash in the bank from this launch by the 7th of January was only 7K. So there's always a difference in the numbers. And just to be clear what I'm talking about there. And then just to add further clarity to the numbers, I'm only talking about this launch on this podcast, but I've already got monthly payers. So recurring revenue is very often around the 10K cash mark anyway, from people who are paying in monthly. And at this early stage in January, I think another 5,000 had already come in the first 7 days of January. So I'll be honest, the numbers were nice, but I was tiring fast. The launch was only ever supposed to be for 10 days, but because I couldn't keep up with the numbers of people messaging and I'd got sales calls booked in, but after the launch had supposed to be ended, I just couldn't fit it in. I needed to take a break within the middle of the launch. I recorded a mindset meditation, one that you can do overnight. Very powerful in terms of helping you create the confidence, the self-belief, and deal with any money mindset issues. I use these kind of overnight meditations all the time. I found them incredibly powerful. So I've created a very special one and I'm giving it for free to all of my podcast listeners. You can download it on the show notes. Anybody who met me within those first few weeks of January would have got a happy but extremely fatigued version of me. I was groaning at the thought of back-to-back sales calls. I think the worst day I had just like 4, one after the other, one. And, there's not even time for a toilet break. I don't know what happened with my scheduling, but it didn't go to plan. And I had a lot of other new clients starting in January. Just was coincidence that people had committed to start in January. So even though we'd created this onboarding process that was a lot smoother, that was a piece of work we did at the end of last year, it was still very much early days. And we're still having to check manually that everything's working for the clients. So quite honestly, I never moan about my business or the feeling of tiredness and just wanting to curl up in a ball. It's very rare that I would ever get myself into that state. But in January, quite honestly, I was just knackered. So there we go. I can manage a weekend of high energy in the business and sometimes a week, like I'm on it. let's go, go, go. But this was around 21 days of having to work harder than normal. And it did make me frazzled. But I do just want to put it into context, like I was probably working 30 hours a week. That feels like a lot for me because bearing in mind I am home educating one of my children and running a home and etc etc. So if I still compare how I felt to working as a full-time OT and my life that I had then, I guess it's still not comparable. Like it wasn't that stressful. But the sales were coming in, and obviously that makes you happy. So we've got this balance. And the sales weren't coming in amazingly fast. I've definitely had faster months, but I was making sales to my normal programs around half the time. So what seemed to be happening was that the content I was creating for the human design launch was just generating more people interested in the whole business. And sometimes what would happen is people come in and say, actually, I'm not interested in the human design, but can we work with you on one of your other programs? So there were just more sales in general. And so the total sales for the human design launch ended up being £23,000, at which stage we stopped selling. I think it was just before the end of January. I just pulled it and just said, we've got enough now. We don't want any more clients because we actually just want to check that we're creating a really good experience for the clients we've got. I've learned over time to not take too many on at one stage on something new without checking the systems, the infrastructure, and just making sure everything was okay. So it was £23,000. And just to clarify, that's sales value. So that's not cash in the bank. And that's just talking about sales to that one program. Because the energy of the whole launch brought in more sales to my normal program. And then obviously I've got the recurring sales anyway. January ended up being around about £25,000 in cash anyway, which it's a nice month, and the input is probably worth the output. So that's the facts of it. What I'm going to do now is just review what could have been better, because there's always learning to be had. So one thing is that sales calls are draining if you have too many. I love sales calls. Like, I really enjoy them. I love meeting people. I love listening to where they're at and knowing that I can help guide them to where they want to be. I like connecting with people. So I never want to lose this part of my business. It's really a part that I love. But when you are doing so many, that is not a freedom lifestyle. And I'm really only wanting a freedom lifestyle. So I decided that I will cut down sales calls from January and start to sell more in messages. So that's something that we've already been doing, just making sales without needing to get on a sales call. And so that meant that the next time I launched, I would need a sales page ready. Launching without one is a great idea for speed and just to take immediate and imperfect action. But actually, you always need to automate. So create something, check it's a good fit, know that clients want it, and then automate it from behind as you go on. And so there was some friction in the onboarding process for me. I didn't have processes set up for emailing clients the details of their booking in calls with Meg. So that had to be done manually. That's greater effort. With the communication between myself and Meg, I needed to tell her which clients had paid, which hadn't. And there's just a lot of new things to be done, to be tested. Feedback to be got. So all of that just took extra time for me. Another learning point, say this now, hold me accountable. I will never launch again whilst my assistant is taking leave. Even as I say that, I've got a feeling I'll probably do it next Christmas. But remind me of how tired I was. There was a previous launch a year or so ago where I'd got about 450 messages in one weekend to reply to. And my assistant at that stage, she was working on LinkedIn and Instagram and not Facebook. And I had to do the Facebook myself. And I was just like, this is awful. And I had to cancel all my plans for that weekend. So yeah, it's definitely why I've got an assistant. And due to the amount of people who came in a short space of time, there were messages missed, conversations fizzled out, quite simply because I didn't have the time to put into it. So there's definite learning points from there, just from a time management perspective. So they're the things that I would maybe do differently next time. But what can we celebrate that went well? Because this is always the best. Whenever a client tells me that they've just signed their first client, the first thing I say to them is what went well in this process, because we need to know what went well so we can repeat it. And what went well was the offer was selling so easily after being created in 4 minutes. I was in full flow. I was totally aligned and energized within this launch. And I created things in magical timeframes, sold, and the cash was in the bank with absolute ease. So sales don't have to be hard. They really can be super, super, super easy. And so that was the thing, that they were just coming in. And not only that, but now I've been working with these clients who came in during this period. They are wonderful clients. I just have the most fantastic selection of occupational therapy clients, and the energy on the group calls, the community's vibrant, like they are just wonderful. So me feeling in full flow helps me to magnetize the right people to me. So for that, I am absolutely so grateful and so happy. Bringing in 14 new clients across the whole month of January was double the usual amount of clients that we onboarded, and it tested out the new onboarding automations. So that was helpful. And I'm so pleased by the onboarding automations. What I mean is email campaigns. Basically, when somebody makes the payment, it's all automatic that they get access to everything. But in the past, I used to hold a lot of space energetically when I was onboarding a new client and just, have you got this yet? Have you done this yet? Whereas what we've done is created email systems so that it sends them all the things that I was having to hold space for energetically. It reminds them of. Now, I'm not saying that's perfect. We're still tweaking that. We're still finding things that we've missed. But it definitely eased the load of when I onboard clients. And that was very helpful. And that actually is Helen, who has done that for me. She's my tech lady that runs my Kajabi. And what another thing to celebrate is whenever I am personally messaging people and not my assistant, it always has much bigger results. And that's often the case, that there's nobody that can do sales like the business owner. And I enjoy it as well. It's what makes me buzz. I don't enjoy it if I have to do it every day. I don't enjoy sending the same message out, starting the conversation, but I do enjoy listening to the heart of people and really getting to know what they're wanting and how I can support them. So that worked well. The fact that my assistant was away forced me to do a bit more work, and it was just nice. It was enjoyable. So lots of good and bad in this launch. And the reason I choose to do evergreen, and continuous launching. So as opposed to doing bigger launches, I just have an open cart all the time, and that is because of the energy thing. So everybody's got different energies, and that's partly why I work with the human design coach. But I know that I as a manifester, I have tons of energy to get something started, and then I just flop. And so this is very typical of me, that I would start a launch with loads of energy, and even if it's getting great results, I end it feeling drained. So that's why I don't do this all the time. But my ongoing efforts, when I'm just launching all the time, they don't have that big excitement, and they don't have that big cash injection, and they don't have big massive results. They're just stable, they're just consistent. So every now and again I quite enjoy going for it and doing something different and having a big launch. Just so you know, I was only launching because it was winter. You will not see me doing this in the summer. That's because the summer is made to be outside and not sat at a computer. So my launches are also tied by the weather. And I have to go with where my energy's at. So just to say that. So one of the things that I just want to celebrate with this launch was that I learned to protect my energy. So I did quite literally allow myself extra long naps or meditations every day. I allowed myself days where I didn't look at my phone at all, even though there were messages coming in. I was just like, no, go off flight mode. I don't want you. I can't deal with this. I need brain rest. And I was very protective over that. So that helped, because in the past, I think I've gone against my flow of energy, and I've just tried to keep going without recognizing that I do need rest. So that was that was an improvement on a previous attempt. And one good thing that I always do is take a week off work after I finish launching and just chill and connect with my family and, do all of those things. So that again is what I did in this case. And you can only really do that if you've got a good network of people supporting you as well, because obviously all the clients, I'd got new clients. So thankfully, I've created systems where I don't need to see everybody every week. So that week off was very good for my resting. So I'm talking about this launch not because it was the biggest or fastest launch that I've had, but because it was the most recent. And that's a full and frank evaluation while it's still fresh in my mind and the numbers are there to play with. And hopefully that gives you some insights into the good, the bad, and the ugly of doing a launch.
If you are an OT with 3 to 10 hours per week spare, then the OT Yourself to Freedom membership is best for you. It will teach you how to create a business, an online freedom style business, but in an affordable way. And this is best for those of you who haven't got the time to really go for it. If you have the time to go for it and you want to achieve bigger results in a short space of time, what you're looking for is the OT Freedom Collective. This is for OTs who've got 10 hours a week or more and you're just really keen to get big results. That's where you're going to be closely supported by our team for a 6-month period. It will be intensive. You'll learn everything you need to create this freedom style business. And the biggest word that people say about it is that it's life-changing.